What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to rank all 9 of the Ghostface killers in Scream, the franchise, from Scream 1 to Scream 2022. So obviously, this contains spoilers for every single movie, including the most recent one. This was probably, no, not probably, this was the hardest list I've ever done in terms of ranking, endings of the movies or ranking the movies, even just on their own. This was easily the hardest to put together because some of these are very, very good, and then some of these are weaker, and the question is which ones are actually weaker and why. So I'm going to start from worst to best, and this is kind of a mix. I wanted to try to take into account them as like their normal, not unhinged selves. I wanted to take into account them as their insane selves. I wanted to take into account the kills or the attacks that they were a part of, and I also wanted to take into account the voice. So obviously it's Roger's voice, but we have to, in a way, pretend that, if it was them talking, if it was supposed to be their character, that adds to who they are as a person. So it's a lot of different aspects that go into it, and I'm going to jump in right now. Coming in at number 9 is Mickey. I really couldn't see myself putting him higher. I like him. I definitely like him. This is not a weak character per se, but this is also a character that just wasn't really in the movie all that much. I mean, when you think about Scream 2, both of the killers, in a way, I mean, yes, they were very surprising because they didn't really, to make sense, that's a little bit, far-fetched. That's harder to say. But they weren't really in it all that much, right? Mickey just didn't have a lot of scenes. Mrs. Loomis had like 3 or 4 scenes, right? So you just didn't know throughout the movie, and that's very different from 1, where Billy and Stu were like there the entire time. But I liked Mickey, but again, considering how much he's in the movie, his final confrontation is, I would easily argue, the weakest of literally everybody's, including the newest movie. I think it's the weakest in terms of just the reveal, how Sidney handles it, or how anybody in that group handles him. He, in that way, is easily the weakest, and I think that kind of brings his character down overall. The next one was tough, but I'm gonna give it to Richie. This is really hard. Jack Quaid is very, very good when he's, him, when he's Richie, when he's the loving boyfriend, when he's kind of innocent, when he's trying to learn stab knowledge. Like, he's really good. He's really, really good. The issue, though, as I've kind of come to knowing in the other videos, is I just don't think he did almost anything. He was maybe the mastermind behind it. Maybe. I kind of think it was like half and half, though, between him and Amber. But in terms of what he actually did, he got, in my opinion, 2 kills. Wes, which was rough, and Vince. And Vince was nothing, and Vince was 1 throat stab, right? So he just didn't do anything, okay? Now, when he went crazy at the end, like, yes, he was pretty cool. However, their reasoning for, why they're doing what they're doing about toxic fandoms and stuff, but it also was, in a way, pretty close to the reasonings of Jill and Charlie. Not the exact same, right? They were trying to remake Stab. These guys, Richie and Amber, were trying to give them new source material to kind of go back to the beginning. So they were almost doing the same thing, but using the toxic fandom as their main motive, or, that was the one big thing the movie was trying to push. So it was kind of a copycat reason that we've already seen parts of before. As Ghostface, he did next to nothing. Honestly, it's very possible that he only had 1 phone call in the entire, so if you take in, Roger's voice, the time he called Sam was the only time, potentially. He could have been the one to call Judy, although I'm honestly, I do think that was Amber. So he just didn't do much as the killer, okay? Almost nothing. Number 7, I'm going to give to Charlie. These were 2 tough. Like, I was debating Charlie or Richie in both of these spots. So I'll give it to Charlie. I do not hate him as much as other people do. I actually think he's kind of cool. I really like him unhinged, like, a lot. I think he does a really good job. It's almost like Jack Quaid does a really good job as both. Jack Quaid's really good as, like, the innocent, and then I think Jack Quaid made for a pretty entertaining and believable, like, nuts person. Charlie is very, I would say, a lot weaker when he's just, the shy guy. He likes Kirby, but he doesn't want to make a move or whatever, and she doesn't notice him. He's pretty weak. But he also does most of the kills and most of the conversations. The phone call to Kirby when he's in Olivia's closet is one of the best, easily, maybe top 5, easily, phone calls in the entire franchise. And again, like, yes, that's Roger's voice, but it's supposed to be Charlie. You know what I mean? So that he's really, really good. Now, at the same time, Jill's phone call with Kirby with the trivia is also incredibly good. So, again, they have really good phone calls is a lesson you can learn from 4. So I liked him in terms of who we're supposed to believe he is through the voice. In terms of him as Ghostface, I think he's very, very good. And then when he is revealed to be the killer at the end, I think he's definitely very solid. I really have no problems whatsoever. It's just he's pretty uninteresting when he's normal him. Number 6 is his partner, or the leader of that group, is Jill. This was a tough one because I wanted to put Jill higher, and then I was also thinking, yeah, but I should kind of put her lower. I was a little unsure. Kind of the same issues to me. Actually, well, what's weird is actually she does even less than Charlie, so maybe I should have put her lower. But no, I think here's what gives her the advantage. I think when she goes nuts and she's explaining like fame, like I want fame and all this, or I don't want friends, I want fame, like stuff like that, I think it's really good. I really believed it. Her injuring herself, I really believed it. When she called Sydney, when she like, are you Michael effing Myers, like I really liked that line. So she does have some of the same problems. She was not a very good, obviously they're trying to make her seem like she's going to be the next final girl, right? Or obviously she's related to Sydney, so she could carry the franchise. She's very uninteresting as, again, normal Jill Roberts. Like, just there's nothing really to her. But again, if you take the conversations she's supposed to, to have had on the phone, all stuff like that, and then including the ending. I mean, she got 2 really good stabs on Sydney. I mean, she almost killed Sydney Prescott. You have to remember that too, right? So she does some stuff that other killers were not able to do. And when she injured herself, that's one of my all-time favorite Scream scenes in general. So I got to give her the spot based off of those several things. Number 5, I'll give to Amber. The reasoning, I would say, is again based off of how much she carries this Scream 2022. So while Richie, I think, is more of a better character, like Richie the character, and even I would say I like him more when he's nuts than when Amber's nuts, although Amber is really good when she goes crazy. I think I believe it. I also like how she switches, right? She switches twice to being kind of like this innocent person, or just trying to get them to back down, right? She doesn't want them to kill her. So I really, really liked that quite a bit. I liked her death. Her death was maybe arguably the most different of any movie, or trying to do kind of different things. Again, she's very weak as Amber, as the character Amber. She's just not in enough. I wouldn't even say she's weak. She's just literally in 2 to 4 scenes, and that's it, and they're very short scenes, so you just don't have enough time to build up the relationship with her as her normal self. But again, as Ghostface, as the phone calls, she is most of the phone calls, including the hospital one, which I really liked. That phone call with Sam in the hospital of choosing between Richie and Tara. I love that. And, love it or hate it, she's the one who took out Dewey, right? So that's a pretty big deal. I fully believe the reasoning. Him being caught off guard, I think, is more than enough for me to to rationalize that she could get that stab in, and then from there, he's pretty screwed after that, right? So that should move her up just because of the significance of her kills, even if people don't necessarily like it. Number 4, I'll give to Roman. This was tough because when I think about Roman, I don't really care. It's not like I don't really like him. I just don't care, at all, and or I guess as much as some of these others. So I was debating putting him a lot lower, but the reasoning he's so high is the ending. I've said it before, Scream 3, the Scream movies have incredible endings. They do. And I really like even 5, or 2022's ending, quite a bit. When I think about it, Scream 3 may still be my second favorite, only after the original. And I just love the fight. I love the conversation they have, and he has as Ghostface when he rips off and he shows the bulletproof vest and he takes the mask off, and Sydney just doesn't know who this guy is. I love that. And then their fight, and Sydney really selling it too, because Neve Campbell does just insanely good job in that entire sequence. So I don't know why I'm necessarily giving him the credit for it, because Sydney was so good, but I just really like their final confrontation. I think it's really, really good. Besides that, I mean, he's responsible for every death in that movie. You know what I mean? So he also carries a lot of the weight, so you can give him that. The phone calls, I mean, they're easily the weakest they've ever been in Scream 3, so I can't even give him credit for that, just because they didn't use Roger's voice, more than half the time. But he does have good conversations, like the police station with Sydney was a really good talk, when he's, watching her when she gets to the house, and she has to take the gun out and all that stuff. Really good. So his weaknesses are the weakest of any characters, in my opinion. I think at his worst, he's the worst character. But at his best, he's one of the better characters, and that kind of evens him out. Number 3, I'll give to Billy's mom, right? Mrs. Loomis in Scream 2. This was just shocking. I just think, you know, she's not in it a lot. She's not in it. She's in it very, very little, but I think what she accomplishes in her little time is very good. And also, as Ghostface, she accomplishes a fair amount. I mean, that arguably, right, I believe that is her in the beginning of Scream 2 at the movie theater. She attacks Dewey and Gale, and that's a really tense-filled, tension-filling, chase. Thinking that Dewey died there was pretty epic as well. The ending is really, really good. She goes through quite a lot with Sydney, and then she has to, Cotton has to pretty much save her. So there's a lot going on with Mrs. Loomis with her just not being in it a lot. And I've brought in motive here and there, right? Because some of these people's motives are better than others. This is just a classic revenge one. I mean, it's maybe one of the most lame in terms of like, it's not so fancy and stuff, but like some of them are like Mickey being found on a serial killer website, in my opinion, is just dumb. Like I've never liked that one whatsoever because I just think that, I mean, it's like, fine, I'll believe it. Like I'll go along with it, but I just don't really like it. And then, like I said, like Amber and Richie is pretty much just a copy of 4. Roman's is very different for sure. Like his is definitely a pretty different one. Obviously, Billy and Stu is the original. So in the grand scheme of things, Billy's mom, not bad at all. Like the revenge story is simple, but it's effective. And the final 2 probably had to be these final 2, right? But what's the order? Well, I got to give 2 to Stu and 1 to Billy. I got to put Billy as at the top here. Stu is such a good character. Like, he just is. But I guess what I would say is, again, if we're looking at it in my criteria, so I really screwed myself, right? If we look at it in my criteria, it is more than just, how great Matthew Lillard did, right? Because you also have to look at the chases, who killed who, and then also the phone calls. And Billy, and also who was really in command, and also the motives. And Billy was really in charge the entire time. You know what I mean? And just what he was able to accomplish. And I love Stu's reasoning. I mean, this is another one where it is simple, and maybe people don't go for it. Just the idea of classic peer pressure, that he was peer pressured into it. He basically has a weak mind. He's just going to go along with it. It's about as simple as like a Mickey being found online, or even like Richie and Amber meeting online. Mrs. Loomis just searching for revenge. Like there are some simple ones out there, or how you find these people. There's some simple ones, but this one I think really works because I just think it doesn't even just fit that time. It also fits any time that people will just. I don't know if they'll do what he did. I'm not trying to make the movie out to be real life, but there are people that just do things because of peer pressure. And so it's not that far-fetched that somebody like Stu, who's definitely a little unhinged, would go for it. So, I mean, that's a big thing, too. I would just say because of his the chasings and who he kills and who he doesn't kill, and then who Billy kills and who he doesn't kill. And again, Billy being the one on the phone every single time except for when he's in jail, right? So he really does a lot of the legwork, or if he doesn't do the legwork, he's at least like planning it all. And I'm gonna forget, by the way, the Roman setting him off thing, but really the rest of the stuff was Billy's plan. So I think because of that, I'll give it to Billy. And I think Billy didn't. I would say he had one of the least big changes between being like normal him and then being psycho him, because he kind of always was a little off. Like you could, you could tell. That's just how Skeet Ulrich kind of is in that way, right? Where he was kind of that dark-ish kind of character, and you could understand that switch because it's really not that much of a switch. But also Stu is kind of the same way. There wasn't too much of a change between normal Stu and not normal Stu. So that would almost give a tie, and then everything else I would say, played out how I said. So definitely a divisive list. This is not a perfect list. I'm sure people are gonna swap these, but let me know your ranking in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. All my social media is in the description below if you guys ever wanted to check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.